So, I've allowed myself sort of around 24 hours now to diffuse, I guess, on the events of yesterday, losing 3-0 to Newcastle, who are in effect a championship side that have had consistent complaints about how poor their squad is and their lack of signings. Um, and this was a weakened Newcastle team as well, missing the likes of Dwight Gale, John Joe Shelby, really key players for them, and they've rolled this over, which has caused a lot of sort of concern, I think, for West Ham fans, and rightly so. I just feel in a lot of aspects that it's come a little bit too late, and a few of these West Ham fans, I think, are late to a reality that I think a lot of us have known for a while. I think for the people that know me, they know that I've not been a fan of Bilic's appointment since he first came in. I think he was the wrong acquisition to start with. And I'm just going to go through a few reasons that I feel that he really shouldn't continue beyond perhaps tomorrow if this review meeting is going to take place. And it goes all the way back to really the start of our period at the Olympic Stadium. I think the entire literally the entirety of last season was a disaster. From crashing out of the Europa League again to a second tier, foreign side really of no real worth, and then transitioning into the 13 or so players I think that we ended up signing that were just terrible. And I think that a lot of the blame was taken away from Bilic with that. However, if we look at one of the main transfer reports from this year being Iheanacho, I think Bilic has perhaps more involvement with transfers than we originally thought. Iheanacho's deal had been agreed. He was able to come in and, at the sort of final hurdle of it, Bilic has said, actually, I don't want that player now. Why didn't he do that with Kaleri or Zaza or Nordveit or Arbeloa? Any of these players that we ended up with that really last season just didn't perform anywhere near the calibre that we require. I think that defensively, for a long time, we have been shocking. I think even in the Bolin season, we come from a losing position a lot. Last season, Arsenal, Liverpool, Southampton, Watford, all put 3 or 4, sometimes 5 past us. Man City, another one that just completely decimated us. And then so far this season, you've got, the Man United away trip. You've got Southampton. You've got the Newcastle game. Time and time again, defensively, we have been shocking. And then you look at going forward in transition, we are terrible. His subs are questionable. I think that we were very fortunate to finish even in the position that we did last season, given the lucky wins against Middlesbrough, Bournemouth early on, as well as Sunderland with the Reed goal. I think the Payet situation was dealt with terribly. If reports are to be believed, he was allowed to play even though he didn't want to train. Man management-wise, I think is shocking. And I think for a lot of different media outlets, at the minute, it seems like an overreaction from West Ham fans that we want him gone after 3 games. And really, my point is that this isn't after 3 games. This is something that we've had to endure for a while. I think the performances have been terrible. I don't think one West Ham fan misses, last season or wanted that to continue any longer than it did. And in reality, I think that it's time for him to go now, and I'm really pleased because at times it's been literal bemusement. Looking around, when I'm home or away, I'm a home and away season ticket holder. I go to all of the games and sitting in the away end and hearing Super Slab and Bilic being sung. When we are playing dire football that I think managers from previous would have been absolutely slated for. And we're playing this football week in, week out. And I think that he gets away with it on the technicality that he's an ex-player and Um, he's viewed as a legend by some fans, and unfortunately, I think from the very start that isn't something that's stuck with me, just purely because I never saw him play. He was beyond, before my time. I'd never ever really heard of him as being a cult hero type of player. I understood he was well liked, but you look at his credentials as a manager, even when he was hired, in comparison to some of the managers that we were linked with, and I don't understand how he got the job in the first place, but he has, and he's here, and this is what's played out. I think that Payet and the Upton Park final season carried him through that year, and I think that Besiktas fans especially warned us very early on that second and third season it wouldn't be pretty from him, and I think we saw that yesterday. It was spineless, absolutely spineless as a performance. There was nothing in transition. We couldn't string more than 4 passes together. And again, similar to early last season, with Antonio at Chelsea, we look this year with Declan Rice at Newcastle, and I think that his involvement and his man management and the way that he deals with some circumstances are just absolutely shocking. Antonio was close to tears on that occasion against Chelsea. Declan Rice, I imagine, wasn't too far off as an 18-year-old kid that, of course, he's put in ahead of the likes of Kouyaté and Aubameyang. If you're going to make a decision like that, you need to be prepared that a youth player may make a couple of errors in a game, and you also need to rely on your more senior players perhaps to mop that up and take accountability. And I think that time and time again we're being showed examples of how poor he is as a Premier League manager. And really, I have nothing else to say on the topic other than, hopefully he leaves now. I would prefer him to resign. He isn't so for me, but for some other players, I understand that, he is a bit of a cult hero with some pockets of the supporters. And, I think if he wants to keep on to that type of, thought process from some of our fans, he needs to do the right thing and walk away, because he isn't good enough. And any more time that he spends in our football club is going to be to our detriment. And I think if we allow him to go into the game against Huddersfield, in my opinion, we lose that. There's a lot of pressure on the game. He hasn't sort of covered himself in glory with the new stadium. I think we lose that game, and I believe it's either the week after or the week after that we play Tottenham at home, and I really do not want him to be in charge for that game, because, well, I don't think anybody needs to be told the reasons for that. This is a relatively new thing for me, making these videos. I felt that I just need to put my point of view forward and, maybe sort of open up the eyes of some people that perhaps are just looking at the last 3 games and not looking at it long term. And I'd really appreciate some comments below, and if anybody can share my content early on. Obviously, it's not particularly simple starting one of these channels, so I'd really appreciate it.